When you read or hear this phrase, soft skills, what comes up for you? What do you think soft skills are? I want to talk about our soft skills today because I think we underestimate them and how important they are. When I think about my soft skills, what comes to mind for me immediately is my warmth and my empathy, my emotional intelligence, my patience, my love for collaboration, my curiosity. These are not things that you could put into a grid and have metrics attached to them. They are much more nuanced. And I want to get into this because I think it's great for all of us to recognize that we all have soft skills that are marketable and they have hard value attached to them. In order to start this conversation, we are going to sort of leap into the deep end because there is a place called the Skills Camp that is founded by a woman named Bailey Parnell, who's really committed to bringing this to light, to bringing this conversation to its height so that people can understand how to build their soft skills, leverage them, train yourself to sort of imbue all the work you do with your soft skills, and it makes you inextricably linked to the power of your worth in a company. And I'm really excited to get into this because we're at a time right now where people are kind of pivoting their work. There are people who are changing jobs for many, many reasons, and you've got to know your value as a human being. And I think it's very human-centered to talk about your skills. Bailey has been recognized by Forbes and Good Morning America and Fox, and she has been celebrated because she is an entrepreneur who is a humanitarian, and she brings all this into her work. Her commitment to this soft skills training company has led her to be celebrated as one of the top 100 most powerful women in Canada. Okay, that's pretty awesome. So let's get into this and really start with a place of celebration. Okay, let's do that because I think if you're listening to this, I want you to think about soft skills that you have that you can bring to the table, just like I did. I kind of riffed on it. I didn't even try to think about it. So Bailey, let's start with you. Can you tell us your soft skills, please? And also tell us how those skills have taken you to the height that you're at now, and how you integrated them into how you present yourself, how you walk into a room, how you accept opportunities, because you know you've got these skills that are going to come into play and make you a very powerful person in the room. And also welcome to Swell. Looking forward.
Well, thank you for having me, Deborah and Swell. I think it's important that we all have a shared definition of soft skills before we get into what they are and how you build them and whatnot. And, soft skills have many names. And I'm the first to say, working in this industry, that people will say, oh, you know what, we shouldn't call them soft skills. They're the hardest to learn. Totally agree. Call them what you want. Transformational skills, 21st century skills. I've heard, life skills, people skills. And really what the commonality is that they are the skills that typically characterize our relationships with ourselves and with others. They are those kind of skills that are often referred to as personality traits, as we've already seen in this conversation. And here's what I'll say. I would not have a job or even a career or a company if these could not be learned in your life. Okay, let me start by saying that. Because yes, while some folks may have had circumstances growing up in their life that, for example, may have made them more resilient or maybe made them a good communicator and they've translated that over to the skill of public speaking, or maybe they had a bunch of siblings and so maybe they learned interpersonal dynamics a bit earlier. While we all may have had circumstances that contributed to us learning these, like I said, I wouldn't have a job if we couldn't break down those strategies that people learned through nurture and actually put them into programming to make you learn them later. So trust that even if we are talking about a skill like leadership or emotional intelligence or resilience or stress management or intergenerational understanding, that you can break these down. Now, I've found that a lot of my success in my career has come from being able to lead and communicate well, both what I would consider soft skills. But even for all of you listening or part of this conversation, you don't have to be in a leadership position to kind of exercise these skills. So Some of the other ones that I think that I've developed over the years are emotional intelligence, which started with an extreme attunement with myself, the skills that I bring, then expanding that out to self-management, social awareness, relationship management, and all that sort. So I would say I would disagree that you are either born with these or you're not. Life may have given you gifts, and those gifts may have nurtured you into some of the skills, but I promise you, you can learn them, just like any other skill.
Hey, Bailey, it's so nice to hear your voice and to hear your soft skills and to connect with you here on Swell. And I'm really interested in digging in a little bit with you about the ecosystem of an organization. When the C-suite agree, let's say miracle, the C-suite agree that we really value these 5 or 6 soft skills. One of them might even be like emotional intelligence. How does that trickle down to the recruitment office, the HR department, the talent acquirers, the people that are looking? The first line is resumes. They get the resumes in, they filter through them, and it's these days things happen so fast. Interviews don't always happen in the right environment to allow people to reveal themselves. What kind of training is there to help HR people notice the soft skills needed to fill a position? And thanks so much for this conversation. Hey, Mark, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm sure Bailey has thoughts as well, but I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I guess the word soft comes from the opposite, which is hard skills, right? Which is like, I know Excel, I know how to code, I can, use a skill saw. Soft feels like more human engagement talents or something. But you're right. Like, of course, the world's a mess when people who are running it don't have these basic skills. But let's get into this and see what flies. Hey, and Josh, I just wanted to reply to your comment. You just sound like a great person and willing to just roll your sleeves up. And yeah, those are skills that are just, you can't code those skills. Those are skills that are come from a human's engagement with the world and being available and being that trusted advisor and that good collaborative partner. It sounds just great. I'm glad you were able to identify them so easily.
I am just so glad that you've talked about soft skills in the recruitment process, because you've gone almost to the start of this. Why don't we have employees who have soft skills? Leadership realizes this is an issue. Welcome to 100% of my clientele. And, it really starts even before they enter the recruitment process. It's funny because when you talk to these HR departments and they say, what are the issues you're facing or what are the most important skills when you're hiring, they will often say, and this actually came out of research in Canada, the top 2 things looked for on job postings were the ability to work well with others and the ability to communicate clearly. Now, before my company, I worked in higher education, and I can tell you for sure that this was not being taught in the classroom. I literally hired someone who was recently out of school in an HR program. And do you know what she told me? She said, the stuff we teach here was never a part of my curriculum, but we work with HR people every day on it. And so here we're expecting the talent to just understand, because I've been in a group project in school. Well, that doesn't mean that you have teamwork and collaboration skills. I would say you should look at these skills almost like playing soccer or football, or depending where you're living and what you call it. If you're trying to learn to be better at soccer, you're going to break down the skills of kicking and passing, and then you're going to work on those skills, and then eventually you're going to put your whole game together to be a good soccer player. Now, if you're trying to learn the skill of resilience, you're going to break down the requisite skills of resilience. Resilience has been broken down before by many, many people in positive psychology and all kinds of worlds, education, you name it, to be things like a composite of optimism, of adaptability, of stress management, of growth mindset. So if you can break these down and work on them, theoretically, you will become a more resilient person. Now let's enter the recruitment pipeline. They're not learning it in school, but we still, as recruiters, want to at least increase the likelihood that we will be getting candidates with these soft skills. So the first thing I would say is to actually state in your job postings that this is important to you. So for example, I will put in my job postings, like I try to walk the walk. I will say, here's who you are as a candidate. You will relate with these statements. You are someone who solves problems or finds ways to solve problems yourself before asking your manager. You are someone who, if you have a conflict with a colleague, you are confidently able to work it out with them without going to your manager. So instead of actually saying, okay, yes, I've checked off problem solving skills, I want the person reading the job description to know what I actually mean when I say problem solving skills in my company. This is what success looks like with this skill. That's step one. Then what you should do is make it a big part of the interview process because, listen, these are the most important skills. You need to assess them with intention. So for example, you might say, instead of just including questions like tell me about yourself, you might also say tell me about a time in which you had to solve a problem and tell me the steps that you typically use. And you know what? You might even give these questions to them ahead of time because guess what? The purpose of the interview is to assess fit, competence, and likelihood that you're going to succeed in the role and with the people at this company. The purpose of the interview is not to assess how quickly you can make meaning of your life in 30 seconds and produce an answer. So you might actually give these situational examples to them ahead of time. In this way, you're trying to assess for soft skills. And then, oh my gosh, in the onboarding process, if these are skills that your employees need to be successful at your company, then you need to make them part of the onboarding process. Onboarding should not just be about how to book a vacation day or the tech systems we use here. It should also include our approach to feedback, our approach to conflict, how we do communication here, values of our culture. That's absolutely what it should include too, if that's what makes your employees successful here.
Hey, Bailey, I like the idea of prepping people so that they can be available fully to speak to their soft skills in ways that doesn't make it like obvious. And I like the prompts you're talking about. And when you place the ad, like those ads imply that you value these kinds of skills. I wanted to ask you about hard skill jobs. Like let's say you're being hired to run a forklift for a company. It's not just the way you know how to operate a forklift, right? There are so many other things that will keep you safe, keep others safe, keep you on task, keep you curious about why something didn't stack right. Like there's all these levels of intelligence that is not just about how to move buttons back and forth. Have you found that people are trying to meld the hard skill, soft skill world to get better results? Because I don't think they're you don't hire someone just for their soft skills, right? They have to do stuff that perhaps is connected to some kind of, output that is more linear and more tangible. But I imagine your goal in creating these worlds is to have people always weave the soft skill questioning into the process. And then once you have those people on board, you have to nurture them and make them feel valued. And integrate the language of soft skill appreciation into the culture of the company. That's interesting. I'd love your thoughts on that.
Hey, ladies and gents. I haven't been on Swell for a while, so here we go. The emotional soft skills that I've learned about the last 10 years have been amazing and has piqued my interest that this exists. It intrigues me because it's sometimes not measurable, and some people are blinded to what soft skills they actually have and the impact that they have on other people. For instance, they may rate their soft skill at 3 out of 10, but for the people they're speaking to, it's a 7 out of 10. So I think having somebody else demonstrate and tell you what they see as your soft skill is very impactful. because you could be walking around with some extra batteries around and not even know you have them, and somebody else could see it. So understanding the emotional intelligence spectrum and how to maximize efficiency on that is very important. So, go forth, do great things for your mind, your body, and your spirit. Keep chatting.
It's just kind of funny that you've chosen a forklift operator as your example, because my brother-in-law actually happens to be a forklift operator, and we have talked about just this in the context of his warehouse. In his time there, he's risen in positions, and he's also obtained certifications in operating different kinds of machinery in the warehouse, including, of course, the forklift. And let me tell you, any single time management is having an issue with an employee or they really like an employee, it has absolutely nothing to do in either direction with how well they operated the machinery. Remember, they have to get certified to even be able to perform that function. It always has to do with, are they on time? Literally, do they even show up? Like, are they punctual? Do they work well with others? Do they take direction? Do they take feedback well? Has to do with all of the soft skills. And then, let's just say you are, working in, as a forklift operator, or let's say you're even like a coder, like another skill that might rely on the traditional hard skills, if you will. The minute a coder has aspirations of any kind of people leadership, any kind of team leadership, project management, you name it, anything other than typing the code, then anytime people rise in an organization, then the skills that get them success in that new role often have much less to do with the technical skill that got them there and much more to do with catalyzing other humans. So if you want to find success beyond any technical skill, it will 100,000% be the soft skills. Now, to your second point there about incorporating it into the culture after you've recruited people with soft skills, well, if you are starting to make soft skills a more important part of your recruitment process and your onboarding process, I would bet a lot of money on the idea that your culture will already improve. Because if you have people with these skills, they will already be a little bit better at intergenerational, interpersonal communications and dialogue and giving and receiving feedback and all of the things that make a really strong, innovative, adaptive corporate culture. So I think that they will already start to get better. However, yes, I am 100% for doing it with intention, making this a team building kind of thing, making this just part of what we do here.
Hey, Bailey, thank you so much for this response. And before I forget, I would love to have another conversation with you. Perhaps you could start one from your own Swellcast about your other side, your focusing on digital wellness and safety. I think it's really also very, very compelling, and we're having a lot of conversations at hashtag digital wellness here on Swell. But I want to make sure we get to this topic before we continue, which is, can you give a clue for people who are trying to say, well, what's my soft skills? Can you prompt people with the right questions that perhaps they can ask themselves to find out their list of soft skills? I mean, we can all run off of them. Some of them are probably less accurate than others in terms of, what is considered a soft skill in the marketplace. Can you help people do a little quick inventory of their own soft skills?
Hey, Bailey. First off, welcome to Swell. It's a pleasure to have you here. And it's been an absolute delight going through all the perspectives that are a part of this conversation. And I think this topic could not have come at a better time because, as you know, the LinkedIn Economic Graph just released their latest report, and it's titled Skills First, Reimagining the Labor Market and Breaking Down Barriers. So I just spent the last 2 hours going over this report and making notes. And it's very interesting that your Swell covers a lot of the topics that are included in this report, particularly around the need and focus for for soft skills as part of the hiring process. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to get your perspective on some of these aspects. The report states that the global labor market is undergoing a major shift, particularly in the times post-COVID. So what do you think, if I may, are some of the driving forces behind this transition in the labor market? And secondly, what are some of the things that business leaders and talent teams can do to sort of integrate the skills-based hiring as part of the existing hiring strategy? The report talks about the need for a skill-based hiring over the traditional job title or conventional college degrees, but I also think that would be completely unfair to do away with that. Maybe there's a balance that's required over here. So in your perspective, what do you think we're lacking at this moment in terms of skill-based hiring, and what would you suggest are some of the best practices that leaders and companies can incorporate to ensure that the skills are given the appropriate weightage in the hiring criteria? So thanks so much. And yes, I'm definitely looking forward to more insightful swells from you on various topics.
Hey, Deborah, I believe that my most effective soft skill would be my communication skills. I've always been able to articulate my thoughts into words and convey those thoughts to an audience. And I never thought of it as a skill because it always came natural for me. But since being on Swellcast, I can tell that I've gotten better at communicating, especially since we only have 5 minutes. I've learned how to be succinct and very much to the point in my conversation. And so, yeah, I would say that would be my strongest soft skill. I'm also an active listener. I do listen well and I comprehend well. I allow people room to share their thoughts. Even if I don't agree, I still like to hear what people have to say because we're not all the same. And I also love collaboration as well. I love to bring different minds, talents, and gifts together and to see what we can create together as a collective, because I don't know everything. I don't know how to do everything. And even if I do know how to do some things, I may not be the best at it. There may be someone even better than me. And so I love the idea of collaborating and coming together with different minds, different perspectives, and different skill sets so we can create something unique and original and impactful. I think that that's very important these days. And so, yeah, those would be my top 3 soft skills those would be my top 3 soft skills. So thank you so much for this conversation.
I love this so much. I feel my life has come a full circle to hear the concept of soft skills spoken in with such lucid, tangible terms. My life started in human resources over 20 years ago, and anything that was a soft skill in the interview was something that was not measurable. So if you were a good communicator, if you were empathetic, if you were kind, if you had a high level of emotional intelligence, you could be pushed over. You were not business savvy enough. You could not have a seat at the table, maybe, or even if you did have a seat at the table, you were expected to almost be out of that element that defined you to be considered credible. But then over time, years, experience, and the way the world is evolving, the soft skill element has become a pretty hard skill, quote unquote, to have, because it cannot be duplicated. It is not something that can be replicated very easily. And being in the organizational and development field and training field for ages, I can tell you it is not the easiest thing to train. You can train people on the hard skills. You can train people on technical stuff. but have them sit down with the book, Crucial Conversations, and then tell them, you know what, you've read the book, now let's go have a difficult conversation with an employee who's not performing well. All of those things come into place. How you look at yourself, how secure you are having these conversations. So fast forward 15 years, and then I took a break to be a mom for a while, just a stay-at-home mom. And now that I re-embarked back into the people world again, and the world of adults, if you will, I'm a life coach. And I find, as I speak to clients, as I speak to people in different walks of life, those soft skills matter hugely, whether you're talking about a relationship at home, or talking to your child, or talking to your peers and your subordinates or your boss. So what are my soft skills? If I were to categorize them, I am tremendously empathetic. I am an extremely positive person. I have a pretty high level of EQ, I believe. I think I'm good with people. How would I measure these? That is where we come down to the bottom line in a balance sheet, right? How do these add value to your organization? Well, it comes down to hardcore numbers. Like, are you, like they say, you join a company because of the organization, you leave it because of your boss. So are you able to add value by retaining a team? Are you able to add value by keeping a team from disbanding, or having teams perform at a high level? So there's just one of the ways. So yeah, soft skills are a huge deal for me personally, and it's just so wonderful to hear so many perspectives on this, knowing the cliches around that word. So thank you for introducing this into this community, and I'm still new here, learning the ropes, and this is definitely a wonderful conversation that I'll look forward to more. Thank you.